you learn any evidence that any of the street signs, the speed limit, the pedestrian crossing, pedestrians being there, any of that, did anyone tell you, or did you uncover any evidence that they were obscured or improperly marked or not visible to oncoming traffic?
No.
Taking everything in your investigation together, the EDR data, the damage to Ms. Grossman's vehicle, the injuries to the boys, all the witness statement, what was your ultimate opinion as to what caused the death of Mark and Jacob Iskander?
That Mrs. Grossman was traveling at unsafe speed.
Did you, as part of your investigation, come to the conclusion that Ms. Grossman was the driver of the white Mercedes-Benz with the damage at the scene as one that struck the boys?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. I don't have any more questions.
Good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
I think you told us yesterday that you did not respond to the scene of the accident on the day of the accident. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you also had nothing to do with anything that went on that evening, that night, correct?
That is correct.
You took over the investigation from Detective Hilson, is that correct?
Yes.
But that didn't occur until about 3 days after the accident, is that right?
About 3 days, correct.
Okay. And so it wasn't until at least 3 days after the accident that you began looking for video, is that correct?
I believe so.
So prior to you taking over, nobody had gone around and tried to get the videos, is that
No
correct?
foundation.
Sustained.
Do you know whether or not anyone did try to find the videos prior to you coming on 3 days after the accident?
I am not aware of that. I wasn't speaking to my partner. I was doing my own investigations that I had at the time. So whether he was looking or actively looking at that time, that'd be a question for him.
And so would you agree that it would be a best practice to try to get the video as close in time to the accident as possible?
In my opinion, yes. I would try to do that, just depending.
And then when you did find video that you explained to us yesterday, you were not able to download the video, correct?
From the two sources?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So the video that we have seen that has been provided in your investigation was a video off of your phone taping the video that was at the locations, correct?
It was a video off of a phone. It wasn't my personal phone.
Okay. And is it true that you never asked the people who owned the videos to preserve them for later?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did anyone ever give you instruction that you should go and ask those videos to be preserved?
Nobody gave me instruction.
Yes.
It was my investigation after the fact, so whether or not I asked them to preserve any type of video, I don't recall if I asked them to do that. It would be my standard practice to do that, so I may have asked them that.
Okay. But at the end of the day, the videos were not preserved, is that correct?
That is correct.
So let's look at, we saw some of these videos yesterday. I'd like to put up Exhibit 5 with the court's permission, which is the boathouse surveillance video, I believe. All right, so now you recall when you first saw this video that there were more cars on this video than just Mr. Erickson's and Ms. Grossman's vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever make any effort to find out who was the driver of those other cars, or where those people would have gone?
Make an effort?
Yes.
Yeah, I made an effort.
To locate the other drivers of the other vehicles?
Yes.
Okay. Did you report on that? Was that something that you put in your report?
No.
Okay. Is that because you were not able to find out who those drivers were?
Correct.
What was the effort that you made to try to find out who those other cars belonged to?
The other witnesses that were there, the video to see if I can zoom in on something to get a license plate to those vehicles, and I was just unsuccessful at doing that.
And when you say the witnesses that were there, you're talking about the witnesses that were there on the night of the accident, correct?
Correct.
So did you go back and talk to those, because you weren't there that night, right?
Right.
Did you go back and talk to those witnesses to ask them if they knew who those other cars were?
I personally know it was based off the other deputies who were there and had talked to those witnesses.
And the drivers of those vehicles were never determined, correct?
Correct.
Now, let's just go back and put that up again, just maybe a little bit slower. This is still Exhibit 5. Do you recall, while that's coming up, do you recall how many additional vehicles, and on Exhibit 5, just to refresh, we're talking about the boathouse surveillance video. Do you remember how many cars had passed through that video that you the snippet there?
Total throughout the entire video?
Yes.
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. I'd have to review the video.
It was several cars though, correct?
Correct.
And did you notice that each of those cars that passed through that video screen on the snippet that we have of that recording were each in the frame for about 3 seconds?
That's hard to say, but roughly anywhere between 2 to 4 seconds,
Okay.
depending on their speed.
So you also had a video that you located from the Golden Leaf surveillance. Golden Leaf, you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. I think counsel asked you if it was 3650 Golden Leaf, you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And there were several vehicles on that video as well, correct?
Correct.
And maybe we can put that up. I believe it's 6. Is it 6? And you recall seeing that there were 4 vehicles that came through that snippet of the video that we have?
I counted 4.
Yes. And of the vehicles that came through, there was a white car that came through before Mr. Erickson's car. Did you see that?
It was light colored.
It was a light-colored car? Okay. And did you ever do anything to determine who owned that white car that came through before Mr. Erickson's car?
I'm sure I attempted to.
But as you sit here now, are you able to provide any information to the jury about who was driving that white car that came through before Mr. Erickson's car?
No.
So there were some witnesses that you talked about yesterday that said that they thought that the 2 cars that they saw were racing. You recall that?
Yes.
And we saw 4 cars go through, at least 4 cars go through on the videos, correct?
Correct.
But you don't know which cars the people who said they saw racing, we don't know which cars they were referring to. Isn't that true?
In the videos?
Yeah.
Rephrase that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, you recall that, you know who Miss Manners is?
Yes.
Do you recall that she talked about a pack of 5 cars racing?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Is it true that when you look at the videos, you don't know which cars the witnesses thought they saw racing? Is that a fair statement?
Looking at the videos,
Well, looking at the videos, you can make an assumption, probably, right?
just based on my experience, I can make an assumption of which 2 cars are being referred to.
And you have done that in this case, right?
Yes.
And you think it was Mr. Erickson and Mr. Grossman, correct?
Yes.
But you don't know whether the white car that was in front of Mr. Erickson's car that came through that video, you don't know if that car was a car that the witnesses thought were racing with Mr. Erickson, correct?
I know that wasn't one of the cars, just based on the speeds, the video.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at your screen.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
That for you right
Okay, but you don't know what the witnesses are referring to. You just know, you're making an assumption about what they were referring to. True?
Made an assumption, among other things, the evidence that I have.
Okay. And when a witness says a white car, and there's more than one white car, you can't be sure what white car they're referring to. True?
If it's just one witness, then true, that would be a true statement.
Thank you. And it's true that you never received the original videos that we were looking at, correct?
That is true.
So when you first got involved 3 days after the incident, you became aware of the black SUV in the videos, correct?
Yes.
Okay. At that point in time, you wanted to know who was driving that vehicle, true?
Yes, I wanted to know.
Okay. But you were already focused on Miss Grossman at that point, so you weren't thinking that that driver was involved, is that correct?
Oh, I didn't believe that driver was involved in hitting the children.
You just wanted to know who owned the car and who was driving the car. You thought this might be a witness, correct?
A witness or somebody involved.
And when you became involved in the case 3 days after, you did not personally have an opportunity to inspect Mr. Erickson's vehicle, correct?
I knew nothing of Mr. Erickson's vehicle at that time, or who it belonged to.
Okay. At some point, you did learn that the vehicle, the black SUV, was owned by Mr. Erickson, correct?
Correct.
And after that point in time, did you inspect Mr. Erickson's vehicle?
No.
You testified yesterday about you reviewed some of the materials that were in the case, correct?
Correct.
And one of those was Detective Hulson's supplemental report, correct?
Correct.
And that related to an interview that Detective Hulson had conducted of Mr. Erickson, correct?
Correct.
And the conclusion that I think you told us yesterday, and I don't want to misstate what you said, but something along the lines that you felt that Mr. Erickson was trying not to take responsibility, is that correct?
Referring to what?
To the accident.
Yeah.
What made you feel that way?
Just the way he was trying to avoid Detective Hulson's question.
Can
Based
you,
on his supplemental report that Detective Hulson had written.
okay. Can you tell the jury some of those examples that come to mind?
I'd have to reread the supplemental report.
No. It's yours. All right, I want to ask you about debris in the roadway. You're aware that, and yesterday we had Officer Mejia on the stand, and he told us about debris on the roadway that he marked. That's sort of standard procedure, right?
It can be, depending on the debris.
Okay. And one of the items that he marked it as, in the evidence log as item number 7. And if we can put up 153-2, please. Detective, do you recognize this? Have you seen this document before?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you understand this to be?
It appears to be the legend
The
of
legend?
evidence that was on the factual diagram.
Okay. All right. And we've enlarged item number 7, vehicle debris, chrome fog light cover. You see that?
Yeah.
Did you ever do any investigation as to that chrome fog light cover that was found at the scene and marked as evidence?
Possible, yes.
Okay. Can you tell the jury what the outcome of that investigation was with regard to the chrome fog light cover?
That it may have belonged to Mrs. Grossman's vehicle.
Did you compare the fog light cover to Miss Grossman's vehicle yourself?
I may have.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that Miss Grossman's vehicle did not include a chrome fog light cover?
Down, no.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Yeah. Would it surprise you to know that Miss Grossman's vehicle did not include a chrome fog light cover?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. And if it wasn't a chrome fog light cover from Miss Grossman's vehicle, then it must have come from another vehicle, true?
Yes, could have been
Okay.
another vehicle.
And if there was debris at the scene from another vehicle, you would want to know more about that, right?
If I established that that chrome fog light cover came from that incident, it could have been there from some other incident a long time ago.
Okay. And the fact that Officer Mejia marked that when he was marking all of the debris that he found on the freeway, that would suggest that he, in his interpretation, believed it was part of this accident, wouldn't it?
In his interpretation,
And it would be something that should be investigated in your view, shouldn't it?
it could be.
Because if there's debris from another car, it might mean that that other car was somehow involved in the accident, true?
Not necessarily.
But it could be, right?
It could be.
And you don't know that until you do the investigation, true?
Correct.
But that wasn't done in this case, was it?
I'd have to check my reports.
Look, I'm sorry, could we put that back up? Yeah. If we go to page 2 of exhibit, 153-2. 152 dash? Yeah. I want to go to page 2, the next page. Thank you. I guess it would be 153-3. Do you recognize that, detective?
Yes.
What is that?
When they shoot or what they call shoot the scene, those are all the measurements from the laser scanner that is at the scene that measures kind of like distances of where things are, depending on that either evidence or the vehicle or a light pole or whatever it may be, the lanes.
So for any item that is marked at the scene, then it can be determined exactly where that item was located by looking at this legend, true?
It can be.
And so if we look at number 7, what is that telling us there that we've blown up?
Okay, so item number 7, well, if you start at item number 1, which is the zero area, that's where the laser's at. It's saying that number 7, that point, is 128.56, can be feet or inches depending on whoever is taking that measurement. If they would put it through either feet or through inches from the north and 18.045 from the east at an elevation from their 0 point of 0.113.
And so we can determine the exact location of where item number 7 was located at the scene, correct?
That's point number 7, that's not item number 7.
Point number 7.
Correct.
And
So
on-
that's not, doesn't refer to Evans' item number 7. That's just the 7th point that was taken from 0.
So if we go back to page 1, item number 7 is listed there as the chrome fog light cover, right?
Yeah, that's item number 7, as
Item-
far as evidence. That has nothing to do with the second page you just showed me.
Okay. One moment. Let's go back to page 2, again, of the same exhibit. Page 3, I'm sorry. And what page is that? Page 4? Okay, sorry, go to page 4. Okay, and if we look at page 4, item number 7 is, corresponds to item number 69, to point 69, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so let's blow that up there. And so this would tell us the location of where that item was found?
According to that paper, yes.
Okay. Are you able to determine where that would be on the map?
I'm not just looking at that. I'd have to see the whole breakdown of the measurements that CSA Westland did.
Okay. See if I can find it. Okay. All right. And again, you have no idea what happened to that chrome fog lamp cover, correct?
As of today, I have no idea. It could have been released from evidence or not.
So if it was important enough to catalog, should it have been preserved?
Depends on Detective Houston, what he thought. I didn't take over this case at that, when this stuff should have all been gathered up. If he decided to gather up, he could have been like, okay, let's take a picture, but we don't need to put in evidence because it's neither here nor there. That's his call.
Well, when you realized that there was another vehicle, the black SUV, that might have been involved, you realized that at some point, right?
Yes,
Mr. Erickson's vehicle, right?
right.
Didn't it then occur to you that perhaps the debris on the road that didn't belong to Miss Grossman's vehicle should be investigated?
No,
And that's because you automatically assumed that that debris belonged to Miss Grossman's vehicle.
I
True?
wouldn't necessarily say that. I'm just based on the statements, witness statements, and the physical evidence, Mrs. Grossman's vehicle hit both of those boys and not another vehicle.
And you didn't need to investigate the involvement of other vehicles because you had already arrived at the conclusion that it was Miss Grossman's vehicle involved only, correct?
That collided into the two boys, as far as that part of the investigation.
So do you know what happened to the chrome fog lamp cover?
Right now, I have no idea.
Is that something that you would have expected to have been preserved?
could have been preserved.
Let's go to Exhibit 153-1. What are we looking at here?
At the very top left, it says factual diagram.
Are you able to determine on this diagram the location of where any of the items were found?
You'd have to zoom in. It's not good quality right here.
Understood.
Yeah, just based on all the little circles with the lines going through them. Each has an E/1, E/2, all point to evidence in their
Okay.
locations.
Are you able to see where item number 7 was on that?
Yes,
And where would you describe that to be?
I would describe that to be midway on the photo you're showing me.
Okay, and so if we put a little marker on that. So would you agree with me, Detective, that item number 7, the chrome fog lamp cover, was found between the number 1 and number 2 lane? I can't tell if that's, which direction that's actually going. Actually, that's going the other way. So that would, well, be between the 1 and the 2.
Yeah, that is located in between the number 1 and number 2 lane.
Okay, and how far from the crosswalk would you estimate that might be?
Based on that picture, I don't know what the measurements are to that.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to ask some questions about the, actually, one more thing on the investigation. There were a lot of different people working on the investigation at different times, correct?
Correct.
So, for example, we heard from Officer Mejia, and he was marking evidence, and he mentioned that Officer Westling was taking measurements. Does that sound familiar with your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. And would it be important that the officers work together and exchange information with each other so that they all have correct information? They check each other, checks and balances?
If they are working on the same thing,
Okay.
depends what.
So if two people are marking evidence, for example, and one is also taking pictures, would it be important that they communicate with each other about that?
It might be.
Okay. And so if Officer Westling and Officer Mejia didn't communicate with each other about the measurements that they were taking and the evidence that they were marking, that would not be really appropriate, correct?
Again, depends what they're doing. What CSA Westling is doing might not be the same. They might be taking care of the same issue, but Westling's thing might be different than what he is doing, but they're still working together in some aspect.
And if they're doing the same thing, working together, they should communicate, right?
If they need to, yes.
And if they don't communicate, there may be some misunderstanding about the results, correct?
That could happen with anything.
All right, let's talk about the sobriety testing. You're aware that Michael Kelly, and I apologize, I don't know, is he a deputy?
All of us are deputies except
All
for
deputies.
Westling.
Okay. Deputy Michael Kelly performed the sobriety testing, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And who is Detective Takas?
I'm sorry?
I might be pronouncing it wrong. Takas? Takacs?
Never heard of that name.
Okay. Do you know who Michael Kelly's supervisor was?
At that time, it would have been any of the line sergeants at Lost Hill Station. He was assigned to patrol, not traffic or anything like that. So his direct supervisor would be any of the maybe 10 to 12 sergeants that were working that shift that night.
Okay. Were you aware from reading the various reports in the file that there was some criticisms as to the way Detective Kelly did the sobriety testing?
That there was,
Criticisms
by who?
by his supervisor.
I was unaware of that until now.
So, you assumed, you read the reports and you assumed that Ms. Grossman was impaired because of the sobriety testing, right?
It's a portion of it, but not my ultimate opinion.
And if the sobriety testing was not done entirely properly, that could affect your opinion on that, right? Just if you looking only at the sobriety testing.
Well, driving on influence is more than just one little section. It's a culmination of a lot of things. So I
Understood.
wouldn't base it off just one little thing.
Okay, but that one little thing, the sobriety testing, was part of the totality of what you evaluated and determined that Ms. Grossman was intoxicated, true?
It was what Sergeant, or what Deputy Kelly's superior felt, because they signed off on the report saying that she was intoxicated.
And because they signed off on the report, you accepted that as being true, right?
For the most part, yes, because they're a sergeant and I was not.
Because you didn't do the testing yourself, right?
No, I did not.
You know how to do sobriety testing, right?
I do.
So, let's talk about your investigation into the drinking. I know you testified yesterday that you actually went over to Julio's to get the receipt and to speak with the waitress. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. So let's put up Exhibit 194-2, please. Detective, you recognize this is the receipt. This is the receipt that you received from Julio's, is that correct?
Yes.
And this was the receipt that you were told related to Mr. Erickson, Ms. Grossman, and Royce Clayton's time at Julio's on the night of the incident, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if we look at the top of the receipt, you can see that this receipt says it's for 4 guests. You see that?
That's what it says.
Are you aware of that there was another person there?
I'm unaware of that.
Okay, so if it was just the 3 of them, then that receipt wouldn't be accurate, would it?
Well, it's not accurate regardless of just it saying 4 guests. There's also another problem with that receipt.
Right, and I was going to ask you about that. The time is wrong, isn't it?
On that receipt, yes it is.
I mean, it's not possible that this receipt could have been paid for at 7:16 p.m. if it was the receipt that Mr. Eric.
I'm sorry, ask that question again?
Sure. This receipt indicates that it was paid at 7:16 p.m., correct?
That's what the receipt says, yes.
Yeah, and the accident was at 7:09, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So if this receipt was paid after the accident, this couldn't be the receipt that relates to this event at Julio's between Mr. Erickson and Ms. Grossman, could it?
If the 7:16 is indicating that's when it was paid, yeah, and assuming that the time is even correct on where this receipt came from.
So the time's incorrect and the number of guests is incorrect, right?
According to this receipt, yes.
And yet this is the receipt that you relied on to determine that Ms. Grossman had a margarita,
An
right?
objection, there's multiple pages to this exhibit, not just this page.
Am I correct, sir?
Objections over.
I'm sorry, ask that again.
Sure. This is the receipt that you relied on to say that Ms. Grossman had a margarita, correct?
It's a part of the evidence. It says that she may have been there, but that just didn't go by the receipt. We have statements from the people who actually worked there and saw her.
So when you're conducting an investigation, there are a lot of people that have to do things to help with that investigation, right?
There can be.
And you have to rely on the work that the other people do as being accurate, right?
Sometimes.
And sometimes things are not accurate that are done by the people who are helping you with the investigation, right?
Sometimes.
And when that happens, that can mean that your result is not accurate because you relied on information that was not accurate. True?
It can.
Now, with regard to the margarita, you do not know how much of that margarita Ms. Grossman consumed. Isn't that true?
I do not know. I was not there.
Yeah. You weren't there, and even if you were to assume the glass was empty, unless you saw her drink it, you couldn't confirm that she had drank it, correct?
That's it. No.
No, I was not there.
Now, this receipt makes no mention of food, but you thought maybe there were chips there. In this restaurant, was this a restaurant that provided chips along with drinks?
That I don't know. I was just more of a personal thing. I go to a lot of Mexican restaurants that usually hand out chips and salsa, so
Right.
just assumed on that one.
It's kind of almost standard, right?
Yeah, or I wouldn't go to one of those.
Okay. And if there were chips on the table, then it would be reasonable to assume that people were consuming those chips.
The speculation relevance.
Stay.
All right, I want to ask you about, Mr. Panish asked you this hypothetical question that had a lot of parts to it. So I want to ask you a little bit about that. He asked you to assume that Ms. Grossman was racing and that was supported by the EDR. And I think your answer to that was it depends. That's your answer, correct?
If that's what I said, then yes.
Now, the EDR, if it's accurate and reliable, would only relate to the vehicle that Ms. Grossman was driving, correct?
Yes.
It wouldn't tell you what other people's vehicles were doing, would it?
Not necessarily, no.
So the EDR could not support racing between vehicles, correct?
EDR by itself?
Yes.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
It doesn't include, EDR does not include interactions with other vehicles, true?
True.
Now, you were also asked to assume that someone, and I think counsel said something about a 60-year-old woman. By the way, it's okay for 60-year-old women to drive good cars, right?
No relevance.
Sustained.
All right. You were asked about, to assume somebody was driving a Mercedes SUV AMG built for speed. You recall that?
Yes.
And that person had been trained and attended classes at Laguna Seca on how to drive over 100 miles an hour. You recall that?
I recall that.
Okay. So let's stop there and let's look at that hypothetical. First of all, are you familiar with the fact that Mercedes offers safety classes to people who purchase those vehicles?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you don't have any problem with someone who purchases a vehicle and then takes a safety class to learn how to drive that vehicle and control it, correct?
No.
You're not critical of Ms. Grossman for taking a safety class on driving, correct?
If she had taken one.
Foundation that she took such a class. He doesn't owe her.
I'd have no problem with that.
Now, and then the fact that the AMG is taken out on a racetrack with supervision and protective gears, helmet and all that, and the driver learns how to control the vehicle at high speeds on a racetrack, you don't have a problem with that, do you?
Personally, no.
Because race car driving is a sport, isn't it?
What?
Race car driving is a sport.
And so many people partake in race car driving on racetracks, right?
It's just relevance.
Sustain.
Well, you don't have any problem with Ms. Grossman taking the car out on a racetrack, correct?
No.
And again, you were asked about, to assume the driver was impaired and under the influence of alcohol. If the sobriety testing was not properly done, you would not automatically assume that she was impaired, correct?
It's compound is the way
Sustain.
it's asked.
It's important to look at all the evidence when you're coming up with conclusions, correct?
Yes.
And sometimes the evidence that's provided may not be accurate, right?
May not be.
And to determine if someone's under the influence, you have to have some objective basis for that, don't you?
Figure out if they're under the influence?
Yeah, if to determine if someone is under the influence, if you're just doing a sobriety testing, shouldn't there be some objective evidence of that?
Yes.
Okay. And if the objective evidence doesn't show that, let me strike that, if the sobriety testing doesn't show that there is objective evidence, then you would need more than that to assume that someone's intoxicated. True?
Not necessarily.
Did you watch the video of the sobriety testing?
Oh, a long time ago, yes.
Okay, all right. Can you tell the jury anything, any one thing that you saw, in your opinion, when you saw the sobriety testing, that you thought showed she was impaired?
That she was impaired?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Again, I'd have to refer back to the video. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
You were asked to assume that the driver attempted to flee. You recall that?
Yes.
When Miss Grossman's airbag went off, are you aware what happened inside the car?
Yes.
Did the car call an emergency service, like an OnStar type of system?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that happens right away, right?
According to my investigation, it usually happens right away if they have that service.
Yeah. And when that happens, then the driver of the car is on the phone, so to speak. I don't know, it's not a phone, but they're on a system communicating with an operator, correct?
That is correct.
And then the call is transferred to 911, and 911 is then communicating with the driver, correct?
Depending on the system. I don't know if it happened in this case.
Okay. Did you listen to any of the audio with regard to the when the car was connected with the 911 operator?
A long time ago.
Okay. Did you hear anything in the audio that suggested that Miss Grossman was trying to drive away?
I don't recall.
And of course, you're aware that as soon as the airbag went off, the fuel stopped coming into the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
No further questions, thank you. Actually, can I just do one more? If we could just go back to the hillside video. I think it's 6 or 7. Okay.
Which one? Which one is it? So,
Thank you. Andy, watch it. That's okay. Traffic. All right. This was a recording that you made, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if we hear a voice on that, which we're not playing at the moment, it would be your voice?
Maybe mine or Sergeant Kelly's,
Okay.
or the homeowner.
Was the homeowner talking as well?
Him and Sergeant Kelly were speaking to each other, I believe. I think the wife was also there.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Good morning, Detective.
Morning.
Fair to say that you take great pride in the work, the investigation you do on a case of this nature?
Yes.
It's important for you to make sure you're gathering and documenting all the evidence in order to reach a just conclusion.
I tried to, yes.
You want to be accurate, you want to be as accurate as possible in gathering the evidence and reaching your conclusions, fair?
Yes.
All right, yesterday, you indicated that you were not aware of Mr. Erickson's involvement until later in the investigation, correct?
Correct.
That was part of the reason you claimed that you did not look for his vehicle or secure an earlier statement from him, true?
I didn't know he existed at the time.
And that was also the reason why you claimed you were not able to determine if he was impaired, right?
Yes.
All right, but in fact, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department knew that Rebecca Grossman was with her boyfriend traveling in a separate vehicle on the night it happened, didn't it?
Did they?
Yeah, didn't they?
I don't know.
Okay, why
When
don't we
was
look
that?
at Exhibit 1, page 11.
hold on a second. Excuse me. You didn't put that up.
Proceed.
It's,
I'm sorry, Art?
Proceed.
Thank you. Let's look at Exhibit 1, page 11. And if we could just go down a little bit further, please.
Your Honor, this is hearsay.
it's a police
They didn't
report.
Please take it.
Sorry. This is for the witness only?
Yes.
No, he didn't do it. He didn't fill this out.
Can we have it for the witness only, Your Honor?
Yeah. Hold on. Take it.
So you have it?
Yeah, hold on. I don't have. Oh, no.
It killed everything.
Your Honor, reason I'm objecting is because council's injecting in, trying to inject information. If you look down on lines 24 and other areas that I didn't think we're allowed to get into.
It's not my inquiry, Your Honor.
The,
But it's okay if he wants to put it up there again.
stop. Doing my homework over here. Alright, so now I go back. Success, you guys see it?
Yes,
Okay, question.
thank you. Detective, can you read lines 14 to 17 to yourself, please?
Yes.
Let me know when you're done.
Can I ask the witness to see the whole document, what day it was written?
Yeah, that's fair. Let him review it.
Sure, why don't we, Roger, can you, back it up and let him see the whole page, please?
See the bottom. Go to the bottom.
Keep scrolling down, please. You there now? Got a chance to look at it?
Yes.
Okay, so you would agree with me that as of the night of the accident, the sheriff's department was aware of the fact that Ms. Grossman was with her boyfriend who was traveling in a separate vehicle?
That she was with her boyfriend.
That was possibly in a different vehicle, correct?
It just says that she was out with her boyfriend. In
What
a
does
separate,
that say?
a separate vehicle.
Well, he was. So, on the night of the accident, the LA Sheriff's Department was aware of Mr. Grossman's involvement, and they were aware of this, Mr. Erickson's involvement, because they learned of this through Ms. Grossman's daughter, Alexis.
Misstates what the document says, Your Honor.
This is rephrase.
Sure. It became aware of Mr. Erickson possibly being in another vehicle with Ms. Grossman because Alexis Grossman told the officers that. True?
Not true. Objection, misstates
Your
what
Honor,
the
if I could
document
just get an
says.
objection without him speaking, that would be great.
Yeah,
What? They've been objecting the whole time. I didn't
yeah,
complain.
but no speaking objections.
Objection, misstates the document.
The question, hold on, I want to make sure it didn't, go back to the question.
On line 6411.
I know what I'm doing. Objection sustained, rephrase.
Did the LA Sheriff's Department become aware of Ms. Grossman being with her boyfriend on the night of the accident based on a statement made to it from Alexis Grossman?
Yes.
And in fact, Detective, your name appears on that document we're looking at, does it not?
Yes.
You signed that document approving Deputy Mejia's report, identifying the boyfriend being with her on October 1, 2020, correct?
No,
Well, is that not your signature and date?
that's not what it says.
Okay, what signature, what date is your signature?
The date says October 1st, but your question is not what I signed off.
Okay, you signed off on a document that identified Ms. Grossman possibly being with her boyfriend that night, true?
Correct.
Okay, in another vehicle,
Correct.
all right. So if you were aware, either the night of the, if you were, strike that, if the LA Sheriff's Department was aware of the fact that Ms. Grossman was traveling with her boyfriend, possibly in another vehicle, why didn't Deputy Mejia look into identifying Mr. Erickson that night?
That's not what that document says.
What do you believe the document says, Detective?
I didn't write the report. Detective Mejia did.
Okay, that's not my question. What do you believe the document
He
says?
believes that his daughter, or her daughter, Grossman's daughter, said that she was with her boyfriend who was in another vehicle. He didn't say anything about his vehicle being involved with this whatsoever.
So why not look for her boyfriend that was traveling in another vehicle?
Because at the time, that was still Detective Houston's case. I signed off the traffic accident report. That was all I did at that time.
So on October 1, 2020, when you sign the document and you read it, why don't you say, why don't we look into who the boyfriend was?
Detective Houston is lead investigator on this at that time. I gave him the document. That was up to him.
So why did Detective Houston do that?
Ask him.
Did you talk to him about looking for the boyfriend on October 1, 2020?
I may have not. I don't remember. That was 6 years ago.
Do you know whether anybody asked Miss Grossman that night when her boyfriend was identified as a possible witness who her boyfriend was?
I do not recall.
To this day, do you know if anybody from the department ever asked Miss Grossman who her boyfriend was that was possibly traveling in another vehicle?
On that night,
Or any other night that they spoke to her?
Well, Your Honor, again, or that night or any,
what-
I mean, go ahead.
Let's
Just
go
don't
back.
listen
Stop.
to the rules.
Stop. Is there an objection?
No, go ahead. Let him answer the question. You just violate the, go ahead.
In the first
Go ahead,
two,
let him answer. I don't object. I withdraw. I ask the witness to please be allowed to answer.
in the first 2
No.
days, Your Honor,
Can he
may I
answer the
please?
question that's pending?
If you stop talking, he's gonna answer.
In the-
And there's a question pending, answer the
I'll
question.
withdraw and let me rephrase, Your Honor. In the first night of communication with Miss Grossman, when it became aware that her boyfriend may have been with her, did anybody ask who that boyfriend was?
I do not recall.
Have you ever come across any documentation when you took over the investigation to suggest that anybody asked her that night who her boyfriend was?
I don't recall.
Now, on September 30, 2020, the day after the accident, the LA Sheriff's Department became aware of the fact that Mr. Erickson was driving a black SUV that night. Did it not?
They may have.
Okay. If I can get the Exhibit 61 published for the witness, please. If you can just make it a little smaller, Mr. Waters, so the witness can read the whole document. Let me know when you're done reading.
What exhibit is this? Is this one of the ones he's gonna use? This is refreshing. Is he telling us how?
I moved it to page 2. I didn't know if you were done. Sorry.
That's fine.
So you would agree that as of September 30, 2020, the day after the accident, the LA Sheriff's Department was aware of the fact that Mr. Erickson was driving a black SUV that night, correct?
Correct.
So still, on September 30, 2020, the LA Sheriff's Department did not ask Mr. Erickson to produce his vehicle for inspection, right?
As far as I'm aware, I don't know.
Well, again, I know you took over the investigation a few days later,
Right.
but based on the totality of what you reviewed in the investigation, is there any evidence that you came across suggesting that on September 30, 2020, or shortly thereafter, the LA Sheriff's Department asked Mr. Erickson for him to produce the black SUV?
I'm aware of any of that.
You're not aware that
I'm
it
not
did?
aware.
Okay. All right. Now, eventually, on October 8, 2020, the LA Sheriff's Department spoke with Mr. Erickson, correct?
Yes,
And Detective Hulson conducted the interview on October 8, 2020.
yes,
He did so by phone, right?
I believe so, yes.
And you were sitting next to Detective Hulson when he was conducting that interview, right?
I believe so.
Did you listen in, or did you ultimately read the transcript for Mr. Erickson's interview?
Detective Hilson's supplemental report, I believe I did.
Did you ever actually read the transcript of the audio?
I don't believe I did that.
And neither you or anyone else from LA Sheriff's Department, to your knowledge, interviewed Mr. Erickson again after October 8, 2020, correct?
I cannot recall.
Again, have you ever come across any documentation to suggest that Mr. Erickson was interviewed again after October 8?
No, I'm gonna object to that because I don't wanna say it in front of the jury, but let me see if I can just say a couple that would.
No, no. I'll see Council Sedgwick. ahead and take our break. We're not talking about this amongst yourselves or with anyone else. We'll see you back in about 10 minutes.
Yep.
There's presidents may be seated. Please continue.
May I, Your Honor?
Please.
Thank you. So Detective, before our break, we were talking about the October 8th interview of Mr. Erickson. During that interview, he told Detective Hulson that he was driving a black SUV on September 29, 2020, correct?
Yes.
Did either you or Detective Hulson at that time ask to inspect his SUV?
I don't recall.
You don't recall if it was asked, or you don't recall if Detective Hulson asked?
I don't recall if that was asked by Detective Hulson.
When you took over the investigation, did you ever ask to inspect the black SUV?
I don't recall.
In that interview with Detective Hulson, it was asked for Mr. Erickson to give a timeline beginning at Julio's that night, correct?
I don't recall Detective Hulson asking that.
Okay, why don't, if I could have the witness just look, published for the witness only, Your Honor, Exhibit 206. You can start at page 11. Actually, why don't you go to the beginning, please? No, it's okay, that first page is fine. Does that refresh your memory that essentially Detective Hulson was trying to start with the events at Julio's?
Based on that paper, yes.
Okay, so you would agree that no one during that interview asked him about his activities before Julio's?
It's foundation.
Sustain.
Okay? As you listened
Sustain.
to, you overheard the interview, correct?
I may have. I mean, I was working at my desk with my own stuff.
In fact, you even offered some questions to Detective Hulson to ask Mr. Erickson, did you not?
I believe at the end,
Okay. At any time, did you ask Detective Hulson to ask Mr. Erickson where he was before Julio's?
I don't recall.
At any time, did you ask Detective Hulson to ask Mr. Erickson anything about the activity at Stonehouse?
I don't recall.
At any time during that interview, did you ask Detective Hulson to ask Mr. Erickson anything about what he ate that day?
I don't recall.
To your knowledge, was there ever any directive by the LA Sheriff's Department to inspect Mr. Erickson's vehicle?
Ms. vague as to directive.
Sustain.
To your knowledge, did anybody from the LA Sheriff's Department ask Mr. Erickson if they could inspect his black SUV?
I don't recall.
you gave deposition testimony in the civil case, correct?
Yes,
That was given on February 11, 2025 under oath.
yes.
You're referring to page 55, lines 5 to 8.
Is there a question?
Hold on.
Like, is he asking the witness to look at it?
No.
I don't even have it yet. What happened? Are you trying to read that? Do you want to read that?
Yes,
Okay, could you just put it up, I'll just see it.
I don't have it.
Jeff, what page?
Page 55, line 5 to 8.
See,
Question. Do you know if there's any directive or instruction anywhere to go and examine Scott Erickson's vehicle? Answer, not that I am aware of. Was that because the evidence clearly established that the boys were only struck by Miss Grossman's SUV?
Yes,
And now eventually you learned from an interview with Mr. Clayton that the two men had a drink at Stonehouse, right?
I believe so.
But you never went to Stonehouse to see what they drank or when they drank it, did you?
No,
Is that because Mr. Erickson's impairment was not an issue to you at that time?
no, it was not.
That was a correct statement that I made?
Correct.
All right, let's shift over to the videos now. We watched a little bit this morning and then yesterday. I want to start with the boathouse video. I think I heard you testify, I'm sorry if I'm incorrect, but I think you testified that the boathouse camera was 50 to 100 feet past the crosswalk. Is that what you said?
To my best recollection, yes.
Okay. In deposition, you estimated it was 450 to 500 feet past the crosswalk. Do you have an opinion on whether it's one or the other?
Yes, improper use of deposition.
I'll read it.
sustain.
Page 75, line 3 to 8.
Proceed.
Question, okay. And where these vehicles are, just roughly, about how far are we where the cars are here? How far are we from the accident, from the intersection? Answer, that's probably a good 450, 500 feet from the westmost crosswalk of the intersection. Okay, so if we can just play Exhibit 5 from start to finish, please. Do we need a switch to show everybody you're on?
Oh,
Sorry. Thank you. Okay, so the first vehicle that comes in is about the 4-second mark. That's a medium colored SUV, correct?
Yes,
And then the second vehicle that comes in at the 9-second mark is a light colored sedan.
yes,
Then the third vehicle comes in at the 20-second mark. That is a dark SUV.
yes,
And then the fourth vehicle comes in at the 24-second mark, and that is a white SUV.
yes.
If I can publish Exhibit 63, please. Okay, this is a Google aerial of the area. You would agree that based on the scene, all 4 vehicles we just saw in that video, marked as Exhibit 5, would have had to have traveled through the same crosswalk that the if-scanners were in.
Objection. That's not
True?
Go ahead. No.
Yes.
Okay, because there's no other place that those four vehicles could have accessed that intersection without going through the crosswalk, right?
If they had started before the crosswalk, yes.
Okay. Well, is there anywhere that they could have started between the crosswalk and the boathouse? The 450, 500 feet?
I believe there's parking right past the crosswalk on the north side of the street.
So the only other alternative they would have exited the parking from the boathouse?
The shoulder, right there in front of the boathouse, right just east of that.
Okay.
I'm saying it's possible, but they most likely came from the crosswalk.
All right, so
Area.
more likely than not, those four vehicles all traveled through the same crosswalk.
Correct.
All right. And given that these four vehicles were only 20 seconds apart, you would agree that the if-scanners would have had to encounter them at some time while crossing the street?
Not necessarily, depends on their speed.
You don't believe that they would have had to either wait for them or pause for them or anything of that nature during a 20-second cross of that intersection?
The first two cars could have had to pause while the Iskanders crossed, if in fact the Iskanders were crossing at that time, at least from that side of the street.
You eventually identified Miss Grossman as being the last of those four vehicles, right?
Correct.
But none of the occupants of the first three vehicles identified themselves to provide any information, did they?
No.
And yesterday, you also testified that the third vehicle in the video was a black Mercedes-Benz SUV. Did I hear you say that correctly?
I believe so.
That is the first time, detective, that you have ever offered testimony under oath in the 6 years since the accident that the vehicle was a black Mercedes-Benz SUV, wasn't it?
Is it?
Let's take page 149, lines 1 through 8 of your deposition.
Good. No, just, the question was, ever offer testimony? So, again,
You don't have to comment.
I'm just trying to warn,
Adam,
open that up.
May I, Your Honor?
hold on.
What page?
Page 149, lines 1 through 8.
Proceed.
Question, okay. And just to go back to my other question, it's fair to say that neither you or anybody from the department ever analyzed any of the videos that you were able to procure of the street to determine what the makes or models were of those vehicles. Fair statement? Answer, it's a fair statement. Yesterday, you expressed the opinion that the two vehicles, the last two vehicles you see, were traveling at or around the same speed, right?
Yes.
So if there were expert testimony in this case establishing that the white SUV was going 50 to 52 miles per hour in those videos, is it your lay opinion that the black SUV is traveling at the same speed?
I'm sorry. It's vague and ambiguous. It's also in,
Sustained.
Okay, let me ask again. If there was expert opinion establishing that the white SUV was going 50 to 52 miles per hour in the boathouse video, is it your lay opinion that the black SUV is going a comparable speed?
Yes.
All right, let's go to Exhibit 6 now. This is the video from the hillside, and let's play it without any audio, please. Okay, so the first 4 cars we see drive through are the same ones we see from the boathouse video, exhibit 5, right?
I believe so.
And then there are 3 more cars who slow and stop directly behind the Grossman SUV that passes, right?
Yes.
Did any of those persons ever stop to identify themselves and provide information to the sheriff's department or any other investigator?
I don't recall.
Are,
I'm unaware. if
you're
that
not aware of
occurred.
them doing that?
I'm not aware of that.
Are you critical of them, of those other vehicles and their individuals, the occupants, for not stopping to say that they may have seen something of value?
Am I critical?
Yes.
Yes, but not surprised.
Why do you say that?
People don't stop for accidents all the time.
So we now have a total of 6 other vehicles with occupants that may have had some useful information that have not been accounted for, correct?
No evidence, excuse me, no foundation.
Sustain.
Do you know whether any of the occupants in any of those vehicles ever provided any information to the sheriff's department about what they may have seen?
Just on the foundation of occupants in the vehicles, other than the driver.
Oh,
I'm unaware of any of those occupants.
We have no idea what other vehicles traveled in front of these 7 cars, say in the 30 seconds before the accident, do we?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And that's because the sheriff's department never preserved the 30 seconds of footage before what we're seeing in exhibits 5 and 6, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Like, well, you were present recording the videos at both the boathouse and the residence, correct?
Correct.
Why did you not take another minute of footage that preceded what you saw in exhibits 5 and 6?
I don't recall. I was focused on Mrs. Grossman's vehicle.
Can you rule out that a dark colored SUV traveled through the scene in the 30 seconds before we see any of the cars in exhibit 5?
I cannot rule that out.
There were some questions this morning about witness Susan Matters. She provided a statement as part of the investigation, right?
Yes.
Would you agree that the physical evidence from the accident did not match Ms. Manor's description of what occurred?
I have to refer back to her statements.
Okay, why don't we, you don't have a copy of your deposition, do you?
I do.
Can I have you take a look at, just read to yourself, page 92, line 23 to page 93, line 20, and let us know when you're done, please.
I'm sorry, can you give me those pages again?
Yes, I think it's on page 92, line 23 to page 93, line 20.
All right.
So would you agree that the physical evidence from the accident did not match Ms. Manor's description of what occurred?
Correct.
And in fact, you previously told us what she reported was not a very promising witness statement, correct?
Correct.
Because what she reported to you was not adding up based on what the physical evidence was.
Correct.
Okay, speaking of witness interviews, you personally spoke to Royce Clayton on December 9, 2020, right?
Yes.
And if I could have the interview published for the witness as Exhibit 195, please.
For the witness and counsel?
Yes, please. You've seen that document before, right?
I wrote it.
You wrote it, right? So you looked at it sometime in the last day or two?
Yes.
All right. So he described for you his interactions with Ms. Grossman and Mr. Erickson, right, that night, right?
Yes.
And you agree that he did not believe that either of them were impaired.
Cause for hearsay.
Sustain.
Prior inconsistent statement, Your Honor.
Sustain.
Okay. May we have sidebar briefly, please?
No.
Did he ever tell you that Mr. Erickson was impaired?
Same thing.
Sustain.
He described for you a call that he had with Mr. Erickson at the scene, right?
I believe at the scene.
He described for you a call that he had with Mr. Erickson while Mr. Erickson was at the scene.
Not that I recall, no.
Okay. Well, do you recall him telling you?
It's hearsay,
that he had-
it's staying hearsay, what Mr. Clayton said to him.
Your Honor, I'd like to approach,
No.
please.
No, objection's over.
Okay,
Let me hear the question.
yeah. He told you about a conversation that he had with Mr. Erickson while Mr. Erickson was at the scene.
No, I don't recall him being at the scene.
You don't recall him telling you that he had called Mr. Erickson to get the address?
I have to hear something.
The address to where?
To where Miss Grossman lived?
Moves to strike, it's hearsay.
Objection is sustained. All is stricken, jury will disregard it.
Your Honor, before this witness is excused, it's really important that we be heard on this topic.
Let's finish.
Can we
Next question.
come back to it? Based on your interview of Mr. Clayton, did you develop any impression that Mr. Erickson and Miss Grossman were racing?
From my conversation with Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
No.
And based on your conversation with Mr. Clayton, did you develop any impression that Mr. Erickson had some knowledge about how the accident happened?
Not to my knowledge, I don't recall.
If you had discovered from your conversation with Mr. Clayton that Mr. Erickson and Miss Grossman had been racing, you would have further investigated that, right?
If they had been racing,
Yes.
I may have.
And if you had discovered that Mr. Erickson had some further knowledge about how the accident happened, you would have investigated that.
I may have.
Did you learn what Mr. Clayton and Mr. Erickson had consumed at the Stonehouse from your interview?
I don't recall.
All right, yesterday you were talking about conversations that you had with Miss Kennedy, the waitress at Julio's.
Yes.
From your conversations with Miss Kennedy, you never developed the impression that either of the three patrons were impaired, did you?
From my conversation with Ms. Kennedy, no.
Based on the totality of your investigation, was there any evidence from any source which suggested that Mr. Erickson had trapped the boys in the crosswalk, leaving them no route of escape?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you, Detective.
You were focused on the person that killed the boys, right?
Correct.
And who was that?
Mrs. Grossman.
Counsel just read you questions about Mr. Erickson. Sir, he read your deposition, but he didn't read the whole thing. So I want to go
Your Honor, if we can
have you
stop the
look.
colloquy and have a question, please.
I was in the middle of my question.
Stop. If there's an objection, make an objection.
Objection colloquy.
Sustained.
I would like to have you look at page 206, line 11 to 206, 5. And, sir, isn't it true
I don't have
Oh,
206.
hold on.
your deposition?
Yeah, I don't have it on there.
Give the pages again.
Hold on.
I don't have it, page 206.
Oh, exhibit 206, sorry. He wrote me a note. Exhibit 206, 11 to line 206, 12, line 5. So if we could show that to the witness. Actually, this is I could show this. This is Mr. Erickson's statement. So, Mr. Erickson,
I'm sorry, are you showing it?
yeah, I'd like to show that. It's Mr. Erickson's
You're
statement.
saying no foundation at this point.
Mr. Erickson,
I'm sorry, go back and establish what it is they're saying.
this is Mr. Erickson's statement that counsel was questioning you about just a few minutes ago.
Okay. Yes.
You agree with me?
Your Honor, why is
Yeah.
this being published on the screen?
I'm sorry. Go back, establish what this document is.
What is this document, sir?
It appears to be transcripts between the conversation of Detective Hulson and Mr. Erickson.
And this is what the one you were listening to, and the counsel just asked you all these questions about and pointing out portions of his statement. Do you remember those questions that he just asked?
Yes.
But he didn't ask you what vehicle Mr. Erickson told the police he was driving, did he?
I don't recall that question being
Okay.
asked.
So Mr. Erickson, when he came to the police, knowing that 2 boys had been killed, that he was driving there with Miss Grossman, he lied
Objection
to the
colloquy,
police.
reading.
Overruled.
He lied to the police about what car he was driving, didn't he, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Erickson, knowing, sir, would you agree with me that this was a homicide investigation?
Objection, Your Honor, 215.
Sustained.
What was the sheriff's department investigating regarding this incident?
We were investigating 2 fatalities between a vehicle and 2 pedestrians, a hit-and-run investigation, and a DUI investigation.
And the sheriff's department is charged with the responsibility to gather the evidence for the prosecutors and present what evidence you find, and the prosecutors determine whether or not there are further proceedings, correct?
Objection leading.
Objection, 215.
Sustained.
This is Mr. Erickson's son.
Narrow the question.
Mr. Erickson, well, Mr. Erickson knew that these 2 boys were killed, correct?
Objection speculation.
Overruled.
At that time,
Yeah.
I'm not aware if Mr. Erickson knew.
The time of the statement,
Between him and Detective Hulson?
Yulson, yes.
Yes.
So Mr. Erickson, knowing that 2 boys had been killed, was contacted by the detective. Did he get him right away when he was trying to contact them,
Objection speculation.
based on what you know?
Overruled.
No.
Was it hard to get a hold of Mr. Erickson?
To my knowledge from Detective Hulson, yes, it was hard to get a hold of Mr. Erickson.
Eventually, Mr. Erickson gave this statement, didn't he?
Yes.
And Mr. Erickson, when he gave his statement, knew that it was related to the death of 2 boys in an incident that he was involved in the sense that he was driving. Forget the other part, right?
Correct.
And Mr. Erickson witnessed, according to what, withdraw that question. Mr. Erickson knew this, and when the police asked him, what kind of car are you driving? And he wrote he said, a black SUV, what kind? GL 450 Nevada plates. That's what he said, right?
According to this document, yes.
You know, based on your investigation, that Mr. Erickson lied to the police about what vehicle he was driving at that time when the kids were killed. Isn't that true, officer?
Yes.
And what do you think as an investigating officer of a multiple fatalities when a key witness lies to the police about what happened in the vehicle in which they were driving? Does that raise concerns in your mind?
Relevance as to what the detective thinks.
Overall.
Yes, it raises questions.
And you told us yesterday regarding Mr. Erickson's demeanor, you didn't find him to be credible and honest, did you?
No, I did not.
Now, I want to clear up some things that counsel asked. First of all, is it a... Hold on, be careful. The videos that counsel played, those are speeds past when the kids were killed.
Yes.
That you can't tell what somebody was driving at the time of the impact based on a video that happened some distance past the intersection, can you?
I can't tell what they were driving?
The speed.
No, not just by that, no.
Did you believe that Mr. Erickson, based on the witness statements of racing, based on his action, was engaging in reckless driving?
Based on witness statements? Yes.
Mr. Clayton, the counsel asked you about, did you learn that Mr. Clayton, he was never at the scene, to strike that question, Mr. Clayton didn't drive with Mr. Erickson and Ms. Grossman to her house, based on your investigation, did he?
No, we did not.
But Mr. Clayton learned that the two boys had been killed by Ms. Grossman's vehicle subsequently, before he contacted the police, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And Mr. Clayton, the police didn't know about him. He voluntarily went to the police and said he had information.
Yes, he did.
Now, let's go to the receipt. I have a few things to clear up on that. We can put that exhibit, what's that in? 150? 120, what? 120-91. And there are multiple pages to that receipt, and you were shown the first page. Let's go back. Let's go back to the one he showed, not this one. Okay. First of all, this is the one that counsel, Ms. Holm, showed you. Recall that, sir?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, she says guess 4. 4 is the number of drinks. Is that right?
It appears to be.
Well, let's go to the next page that you weren't shown. And let's see. Remember, Ms. Holm was asking you questions like, this wasn't Mr. Erickson's bill. It could have been a mistake. How did you know that? It could have been an error based on it says 4 people. Remember all those questions?
Yes.
Who signed that receipt?
It appears to be Scott Erickson.
And what time does it say it was checked out?
6:51 p.m.
And Mr. Erickson signed the bill. And he wrote, thank you, exclamation point, right?
Yes.
Is there any question, after all those questions of counsel, that that receipt was the one from the date in question, it was accurate, and it was signed by Mr. Erickson?
Objection, Foundation.
Overall.
It appears to be the receipt.
No question, is there?
No.
It's your job to impartially investigate the accident and find all the facts that you can to give to the next level of the authorities. Is that a true statement?
Yes.
Is that what you did in this case?
Yes.
Did you see any witnesses that you interviewed that said, oh, they were not racing at any time?
I don't recall anybody not saying they weren't racing. Let me rephrase that. I don't recall anybody telling me that they weren't racing.
You told us yesterday that racing is dangerous.
Yes,
And you understand as an investigating officer investigating other racing cases, that it's not just the person that makes the contact, it's the people engaged in the race that are the target of the investigation.
yes,
And the law that you have to enforce says that if you're racing and someone else that you're racing with kills or injures someone, you're responsible.
Legal conclusion.
Sustain.
Well, you have to understand the law to make an assessment about who should be charged with crimes, right?
arrested, yes.
And is racing reckless driving?
It is reckless.
This one's. Could I just ask the court one thing? I don't want to have a problem, and I want to make
Okay.
sure I understood your ruling.
All right.
Sir, others in your department were investigating Mr. Erickson for reckless driving, correct?
Correct.
So when you were asked a question, there was nothing else, there were no further investigation, Mr. Erickson, that isn't true, is it?
No.
Ms. Halm asked you a few questions about impairment of Ms. Grossman. Have you changed your opinion in any way after all the questions of the defense counsel that Ms. Grossman was driving under the influence of alcohol caused the death of 2 children?
Do I believe she was under the influence causing the death of 2 children? Is that your question?
Yes.
Yes.
And after all those questions, you haven't changed that opinion.
No.
Did you later learn, as a part of your investigation, that when Ms. Grossman, 3 hours later, was finally taken to the hospital and a blood test was taken, that she was in excess of the legal limit for driving under the influence of alcohol?
Objection, Your Honor. Misstates the evidence.
Over.
I'm sorry, ask that question again.
Sure. Okay. Did you later learn, as part of your investigation, that when Ms. Grossman was taken to the hospital and blood was involuntarily drawn from her 3 hours after the accident, that the reading of the blood alcohol content was in excess 3 hours later of the legal limit?
Objection, Your Honor. It calls for an expert opinion. It calls for a legal conclusion, and it's misstating the evidence.
Sustain.
Which ground?
The latter one.
Misstates the evidence?
Yes.
Do you know what the level of alcohol is in the state of California where somebody would be operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol, because you're charged with enforcing that law?
According to California Vehicle Code 23152, subsection B, 0.08 blood alcohol content is considered a misdemeanor and arrestable for DUI.
Based on the evidence in this case.
Correct.
And you say misdemeanor, but if there's...
Hold on, but what's the level on, under the A portion of this, the code you just read?
The A section?
Yeah.
It can be 0.01 or above that, between that, or 0.05, or 0.04 if you're a truck driver.
I wanted to ask those questions before, I wasn't allowed, but you understand there's different presumptions in the 23-152A and B of the vehicle code regarding whether someone is driving under the influence.
Correct.
And there's certain levels of alcohol that provide certain presumptions for the trier of fact and the prosecuting authorities.
Yes.
And it can be any level, but certain levels, it's presumed that you are under the influence of alcohol, correct?
Correct.
And and as the court just asked you, section A, 23152A, says, deals with levels between 05 and 06, I think, is that right? Hold on.
0.079, I think. Have to reread that one.
And it's actually D. If someone is only a 0.04,
Right.
it's a rebuttable presumption that they're under the influence of alcohol.
Yes.
And a rebuttable presumption means it's not presumed you're under the influence, but it's a presumption that you can prevent evidence to counter.
Yes.
But 0.08 is a different situation, isn't it?
Yes.
And what is under 0.08, 23512 sub B states that it's unlawful for a person who has a 0.08 percentage or more by weight of alcohol to operate or drive a motor vehicle.
Correct.
That's the case here.
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm just going to object to that last question as vague. And move to strike the answer. That's the case here.
Overrule.
With respect to Mr. Erickson and alcohol investigation, counsel has asked you a question about that. You weren't able to conduct an alcohol investigation because no one was able to assess Mr. Erickson on the date in question, nor take a preliminary alcohol screening, or give field sobriety test, or take a blood alcohol.
Correct.
Now asked and answered.
Over.
Correct.
All right.
Okay. That's it, I'm done.
Any questions from the jury?
Yes. Very quick.
Other questions too?
I think so.
All right, quickly.
Could we please put up number 7 again? Thank you. I'd like to play this again, and this time with sound.
Well, first of all, it's beyond the scope.
Sustain
It was gone into by Mr. Vaughn.
with sound,
No, without, but I want,
specifically without sound. All right.
it was, but I'd like to have, okay, we'll do it without sound. I'll ask you when to stop. Is it 7? Did you put up 7 or 6? Oh, 6, I'm sorry, I apologize. Number 6. That's all right. Right there, stop right there. Can you back up just a smidge? Right there, a little bit more, so we can see the finger. Okay. Detective, was that you there pointing your finger?
I don't recall if that's my finger or Sergeant Kelly's or
Do you recall what is being pointed out in the video right there?
probably the other cars that are pulling through the scene.
Say that again?
The other cars that have arrived after Mrs. Grossman's and Mr. Erickson's car passed.
Do you recall what you were saying, or did you say something audibly at that point when you pointed your finger there about the cars that you saw?
I may have, maybe the way they were moving.
Did you say something regarding the cars going around a body?
It's possible.
Well, that was your voice that said it?
May have been, yes.
Okay. Now, we talked a minute ago about Miss Manners. You recall when I asked you before that she said she heard 2 impacts, correct?
Yes.
And that was part of the investigation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever investigate whether or not what happened right here was one of those cars driving over one of the children?
It's foundation.
Over.
No.
Okay, one more thing about the receipt. The receipt that Mr. Panish showed you, the second page, that receipt still says it's for 4 people, doesn't it? Regardless of the time on it.
You have to pull it back up, but I believe it just says 4.
One, remember what you? Thank you. Here we go. The first page indicates there were 4 guests, right?
That's the receipt you showed me, not what
Right.
you showed me.
Right. It doesn't say 4 drinks, it says 4 guests, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So did you ever determine that someone else showed up and shared in those margaritas?
It's all beyond the scope.
Sustain. All right, let me ask the one juror question,
Thank you.
or one of the questions. In one of the exhibits that contains a splatter that looks like blood on, or bodily fluid, have these droplets been analyzed and confirmed to be of Mark and Jacob?
That'd be, crime lab did their analysis of that, and I'd have to see the report fully to see, because they did multiple spots on that car. So it just depends on which spots we're talking about, where on that car.
You can't answer that question.
Not fully.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, you're excused. Thank you. Before I have you break for lunch, you're excused. I just want to remind you all, some questions will be asked, some will not. Those decisions are mine alone. So we'll break for lunch. I'll invite you back at 1:30. Do not talk about the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else.